when you're reading Babuji's message, you should feel as if he is directly talking to you. That was the idea he gave. And we should fully concentrate so that, our whole being is giving full attention to it. Then certainly some impact will come.
Yeah.
Generally, human mind is so divided, it keeps the scatterbrain, it will be moving here and there. The whole being is not, though we are supposed to do that during meditation, people find it very hard to bring their thoughts, feelings, and will united and then bring them together. Even though we advise them to think that you try to connect your heart and brain together, that means your cognition and feelings should be united. And then, as per Pujya said, that is sincerity, when you give your full interest to the whole subject, actually. So we'll start now. So today's reading session, we'll talk about the message of the master, which happens to be today's diary saying also. It was delivered in September 1960 by Pujya Babuji Maharaj. So we'll slowly read the whole thing. It is a great pleasure to me to deliver to you the message of my master, which is meant for the common good of all humanity. His auspicious name was Samartha Guru Mahatma Ramchandraji of Fatehgarh, UP. He is the Adi Guru of our mission. He devoted his whole life to the spiritual service of all mankind. The popular belief that the attainment of liberation is not only difficult, but also impossible within the span of one's life is a mistaken notion. ये important है, mistaken. काफी लोगों को they really don't give so much of importance. Subconsciously, they carry that idea actually, which is a hindrance actually. Since Babuji is saying it's a mistaken notion, we must accept it and then feel confident that it is whatever he's saying is true, and then we should accept it wholeheartedly. Who knows, this very life of ours might be the last one to bring us to the level of liberation. Liberation, mind you, we should again have a common sense or a clear practical notion and all that. That means we should be totally free from all situations which can cause us pain and misery or unhappiness. Now when we are sitting in meditation, we feel extremely calm. But we are vulnerable for worry about future. We are vulnerable to behave badly. We are vulnerable to become inappropriately angry in situations. We should be totally free from that and totally free from the idea of doership. So doership feeling is there. When you're liberated, you'll be liberated from the feeling of doership. You become aware that the divine energy is working and you are an instrument. Instrument, like pen, will not know that it's being used to write. Like we will not know that we are being used also. So that feeling you'll become aware during liberation. So you'll be above likes and dislikes. You'll be above judgments. You'll be above complaining. So these are the some practical ideas we should have about liberation. So, and we can compare ourselves whether we are reached that stage. If you are not reached that stage, that means our devotion towards the goal needs to be intensified. And once it intensifies, the stage comes when, by the grace of God, we'll get liberation. So we should have a practical notion about what is liberation. Who knows, this very life of ours might be the last one to bring us to the level of liberation. Indeed, our great master has boldly asserted that one can for sure attain liberation in this very life, nay, even a part of it, provided one is especially earnest about it and has the fortune of having a proper guide. There are several caveats here, provided one is really earnest about it and having a proper guide. As per Pujya sir, he says 15 to 16 years probably is the time which requires for you to get liberated and work as a master in this field. I mean, you move in the environment or in the world like a master. That means you are liberated and then you are performing your duties in this world like a master. So he says 15, 16 years. That's what in a personal conversation he was talking. So Lalaji says within half of a lifetime, not in complete lifetime, half of a lifetime we can become liberated. Who knows, this very life of ours might be the last one to bring us to the level of liberation. Indeed, our great master has boldly asserted that one can for sure attain liberation in this very life, nay, even in a part of it, provided one is really earnest about it and has the fortune of a proper guide. This he has practically demonstrated in many instances, which only direct experience can prove. He advised meditation on the heart as the easiest method, and this is followed in the mission. Meditation on certain other points, such as the tip of the nose or the midpoint between the two eyebrows, as advised elsewhere, may also serve to some extent. But in my opinion, meditation on the heart is the easiest and the most efficacious. I have sufficiently dealt with this point in the efficacy of Raja Yoga. We have so far Raja Yoga. He has dealt about that. He says the activity when the heart contracts, there's an activity, and when it relaxes, there's a short span of time where there is a gap between activity and inactivity, and like that he has discussed in Towards Infinity also. And then he has also discussed that the activity of the heart, the beating of the heart, is due to the influence of the invisible vibrations of the God. And then heart, we all know, is the seat of the mind, actually, which modern science is also talking now. They don't think, the common intuition is that the brain thinks and the brain feels and all that. Now the whole body is involved in thinking and feeling. Cognition is done where the whole body is involved, actually. So in the body, the center of the body is the heart. And the heart functions because of the connection with the invisible divine force all around us. So if you can rest your attention on the heart and think that the divine light is present in the heart, and then the divine light mixes with the blood, and then that pure blood now circulates and then supplies your brain, heart itself, and then the muscles, lung, and purity begins the moment you start meditating on it. Every second you're doing it, you're getting purified. So that's the science behind it. I have sufficiently dealt with this point in the efficacy of Raj Yoga. And we are now, he is also in this point, he also talked about the subtlest, meditation should be on the subtlest thing. That means if you are capable of, it's not possible to have a conception about God because he's the subtlest thing. but you can think of anything subtle than time and space, or your own awareness. If you go very deeply, it doesn't occupy any space, or it doesn't occupy any length or breadth or height or weight or anything. So in your own being, the suggestion that subtlest thing is present, divine light is present in the heart, and then if you allow your mind to stay on that, your mind also will become so subtle. It will be free from all prejudices, free from all narrow-mindedness, free from all, uh, you know, complexities actually. So that is important again. We have so far been extroverts, but now we have to become introverts by turning our mind inwards. When we are successful in our efforts, we automatically begin to have spiritual experiences. And our march on the path of spirituality goes on without interruption. Other forms of sadhana may also perhaps be helpful to some extent, but this at least is quite certain, that so long as we are extroverts, our eye can never turn inwards. This is very important because even when we are not meditating, our mind turns towards news, our mind turns towards WhatsApp. That's all extroversion only. I mean, your reality is inside your heart, but that's also reflected outside. But instead of seeing the reality hidden in the external objects and things and these things, we feel multiplicity or differentiation, separation as we believe separation as a reality. So that is extroversion. So even when you're extrovert, you should be able to see the underlying reality in everything, underlying presence of God in all objects, in all uh, organic and inorganic objects. If you don't see that, then it's an extroversion, which is, as long as extroversion is there, uh, the method is not correct. That means you're not meditating properly. Other forms of sadhana may also be helpful to some, but this at least is quite certain, that so long as we are extroverts, our eye can never turn inwards. The most helpful methods would therefore be only those which are quite simple and natural and free from all grosser effects. For acquiring that which is the subtlest beyond all possible limits, we must naturally be attracted towards means which tend to make us the lightest and the subtlest. When we want to humor a baby, we pose innocence like him. So also for realizing him, we have ourselves to become godlike. Godlike means, again, we cannot conceive, but at least people, by reading the letters of Babuji, at least we can have a conception of the qualities of the heart and mind of a person who lived with us, and how affectionate he was towards people, how concerned he was about our spiritual growth, how he excused all of our mistakes, indiscipline, and still was worried that we should get liberated at the earliest. So if you can conceive of a personality by reading his letters, uh, if we can become like him, so in that way we have become as subtle as God himself, actually. The next thing most essential for spirituality is moderation. The word carries a vast sense. It does not pertain only to the mending of our external ways of living so as to make them agreeable to others, but it is something which covers the entire sphere of our mental and physical activities. I mean, in the ninth commandment, he talks of moderation, means he says, you should be affectionate towards young people, you should be respectful towards elders, and your ways of behavior should be such that you should not cause hurt to anybody. So, talking in a soft voice, in a pleasant voice, making people happy, those words which is used um, in ninth commandment actually. But he says The word carries a vast sense. It does not pertain only to the mending of our external ways of living, so as to make them agreeable to others, but it's something which covers the entire sphere of our mental and physical activities. All your thinking, feeling, everything, your work in society, with your parents, family, all facets of your perceptual experience is comes under the ambit of this word moderation. In the opinion of our revered master, actually he actually defines what is moderation in ways and means in reality at dawn, where he says you do any activity so that it will not cause an impression on your heart. As much effort is required to carry the task, that much only is done, and you will not, it will not form an impression on your heart. So that's the sense he gives you when he talks about moderation, ways and means in reality at all. So that is the word he's talking about. In the opinion of a revered master, a person cannot be said to have even stepped into the field of spirituality, though he might have secured high attainments, if he lacks moderation in any respect. Moderation really means that we have entered the sphere where our restless tendencies have subsided to a great extent. Whatever remains of it then relates, however, to the condition of the region we are wandering in. So almost tranquility and silence should be the state of mind of a person who's living in a state of moderation. There are certain granthis or knots in all regions. When the current of nature flowed down from the origin to affect creation, the jerks created knots which became centers of power. In the course of our swimming up through these currents, the knots begin to get unfolded through the power of meditation, making our advance easier and more smooth. Further, we enter the region which is purer, where the effect of granthis is greatly reduced. In this way, we go on stage by stage till we reach the point where Maya becomes almost extinct. That is when you move into the beyond the 10th knot, it becomes extinct actually. So as you move, the journey becomes easier and easier because the path is clearer, and then your sense organs also become quiet. You give up your judgment, and then you surrender your will to the will of the master. And then as you progress, it becomes easier to practice meditation. It becomes very, very easy to get absorbed in God, and it becomes very easy to uh, get to live the condition of nishkama karma. I mean, all your work you feel you're doing to please the master, and any work you do, like we are now reading and then trying to share his knowledge, we feel grateful to get an opportunity to share his knowledge. I mean, every activity turns into a sense of gratitude actually. So ego will not be there. As the ego becomes less, the movement towards the goal becomes much more easier and easier. Further, we enter the region which is purer and where the effect of granthis is greatly reduced. In this way, we go on stage by stage till we reach the point where Maya becomes almost extinct. The greatest of sages normally have had their access only up to this extent, but much remains further still. Judging it from the spiritual point of view, I may say that it is yet only the 5th circle we have covered, and 11 more remain still to be covered. Mind you, the 5th circle, as per the rings, equals to the 10th knot in the towards infinity thing, and the heart region of the efficacy of Raja. 11 more remain still to be crossed. Sir has discussed very in a detailed way in Path of Grace all these things. I request all of you to study it again and again so that you have a better grasp about spirituality. When we have crossed all the 16, we step into the central region, as I have called it in my efficacy of Rajayoga. This approach had formerly been quite unattainable by embodied souls. But by virtue of our master's wonderful discovery, one can now attain that state while in the physical body. People may not be convinced of it, but I shall say that the condition can be practically experienced if a person exerts himself for it, or if one gets a master of real caliber who, by means of transmission of the power of prana or spiritual energy, can give him a glimpse of it for a moment at least. He says people may not be convinced of entering into the central region in the physical body, but I shall say that the condition can be practically experienced if a person exerts himself for it, or if one gets a master of real caliber who, by means of transmission of the power of prana or spiritual energy, can give him a glimpse of it for a moment at least. The 2 points here. He says, if you exert yourself, you can go, and or if you get a master who can, by his transmission, can take you to that condition. As regards bhakti, so far as my inner reading goes, I can safely say that what people generally think to be bhakti is only flattery in the real sense. In fact, real bhakti is widely different from flattery. It is simple attachment, strong and irrevocable attachment to the divine. There are, however, some who feel even the pangs of love, as they call it, which in my opinion may more appropriately be interpreted as the pricking pain of a boil, though they might be a bit higher than the ordinary level of flattery. I call it as the pain of a boil because it is devoid of divine remembrance. That means our bhakti or attachment to God is not as it ought to be. So we have to ponder. He is now making a statement. That means our bhakti or attachment to God is not as it ought to be. It is short of the mark. Why he is telling it is short of the mark? It may, some of you may be exempt from the statement he's making, but it may pertain to most of the general abhyasis. So it's a point for us to seriously contemplate why he's saying so and in what way we can fill up that gap actually. It is short of the mark. In what way we can reach up to the mark is a point for us to ponder actually. The only cure for such a pain can be a surgical operation, which might throw out the poisonous element, which if neglected, but in course of time develop into a chronic ulcer beyond all possibility of cure. The toxic element is really the ungodly and anti-spiritual matter that has accumulated in our body by the effect of bad association and environment. That brings us to the conclusion that the means we adopt for worship or meditation should be such as may manifest true love in our hearts. So if we are meditating as per his advice, true love should manifest in our hearts actually. So now the question we have, each one has to put to oneself whether that is getting manifested or not, and what are the signs of it getting manifested. You have to see for yourself, know for yourself. There are numerous ways for developing divine love, for which many bhavas, attitudes are resorted to, such as that of a father, mother, friend, or master. But in my opinion, the conception of God as beloved is better and more convenient. If we think ourselves, but last time I think we have read self-surrender, where he advises us to when us to think the master or the divine energy as a mother. Mother bears extraordinarily for the children. So that is one, he says, and it depends upon the individual predilection of an abhyasi. He can treat God as a friend or a God as a master, God as a lover, as a beloved, or God as a mother, and God as, like so many other ways. At any point of time, you can change these things. It is just for the sake of facility to strengthen the link. But finally, you're not separate from God. You become one with God when you reach the destination. So it is only as a strategy to develop the strength of the link, actually. But in my opinion, the conception of God as beloved is better and more convenient. If we think ourselves to be the lover and Him as the beloved and proceed on with the same feeling, the course would be easier. The result that will follow in due course would be that God Himself shall become the lover and we the beloved. This is really the fourth stage of meditation. But if we think at this stage that we have realized the goal, it is a blunder. Now it's very interesting. He says, like Kabir says, God is running after me. He says in 73 message, he says, you should remember the beloved in such a way that the thought of the remembered should ooze out from objects everywhere. And then that creates a wave or a jerk in God's mind and whatever, if you can call it mind. And then he will not fail in doing his job, or justice is there. And then he comes towards you, and then the senses get summarized. And then a new phase opens, he talks of. And then similarly, he says, if when you follow this strategy that you are a lover and beloved, and a stage comes when the roles get reversed, and God will become the lover and you become the beloved. And he says, at this stage, if you think the job is over, he says, you are mistaken. We should all think about this so that we know what goals he's setting for us. What are the what is the goal of spirituality as per Babuji? You'll just get a hang of the idea, actually. But if you think at this stage that we have realized the goal, it is a blunder. Babuji is saying it's a blunder. Much remains ahead still. But that being beyond words is related with practical experience only. By all this, I mean to emphasize the things which are most useful for further spiritual progress. But unfortunately, the standard of final attainment, nay, perfection even, has so much gone down, and bhakti has become such a cheap affair that they have altogether lost their real value. Even a peculiar motion of the eye is taken as bhakti, and the experience of its effect as a high attainment, which, as I understand, is sufficient to make one a present-day guru. The times have changed for the worse, making us all the more so. Degeneration has set in, diverting the minds of people from the right course. When they got completely tarnished with it, the idea of degradation began to haunt their minds. But in their state of degradation, they had accepted wrong as right, and they went on and on with it, thinking it to be the proper solution to the problems of life. They preached the same, and painting it in bright colors, they offered it to the people, inducing them to accept and follow them. Not a streak of light could, however, be traced in any of them. The sense of morality got deteriorated to the extent that discrimination between right and wrong was almost lost. That means Viveka is totally lost. Prejudice became predominant so much that picking up bitter quarrels or indulging in a righteous incidents on that account is treated as a pious act, instances of which are abundant everywhere. There are some who advocated the idea of a personal God, others that of a formless God, still others that of Saguna or Nirguna, with or without attributes. There are heated discussions resulting in bitterness, which create feelings of hatred against each other and produce causes for dissension. The supporters of both Saguna and Nirguna concepts, though they vie so much with each other, are, in my opinion, equally in the wrong, and neither of them has thereby been able to achieve the ideal. So Babuji feels that both of them are wrong. People who who worship Saguna Brahma or Nirguna Brahma. Both of them are wrong, he says. Neither of them has thereby been able to achieve the ideal. They're really the two paths with the same common object, which is realization. The only difference between them is that for those who proceed by the former, Saguna, and remain fixed to it, I mean, it could be a starting point, you have to transcend that, but you rigidly remain fixed to it. Infinity ever remains out of their view. He says if you remain fixed to a personal form like Rama, Krishna, or Venkateshwara, or Babuji, fixed to that, infinity remains out of their view. That means they have solidified the watery vapors of air into hard, icy rock. Now, if icy rock slips down into the sea, ships are likely to strike against. Similarly, shall be the fate of the advocate of the Nirguna view if he sticks to it forever, thinking it to be all sufficient. Perhaps the only difference that his rock might be a little further on. That means even if you, I mean, in a prejudicial way, you stick to it as the only reality, even then your boat will be stuck by that rock, which is further on than the Saguna, but still you will not reach the destination. That's the idea. Truly speaking, God is neither Saguna nor Nirguna, but beyond both. He is what he is. What should then be done to solve this mystery? The only possible solution can be to fix our eyes on the absolute, be it Saguna, Nirguna, or neither, and develop love for it. So he's giving you a straightforward clue. He says, the only possible solution can be to fix our eyes on the absolute, be it Saguna, Nirguna, or neither, and develop love for it. That means divine light without luminosity is the best idea is given. We'll stick to it, that's all. Now there remains only the problem of realization. Generally, people take it to mean a mental vision of the physical form of Vishnu with four hands holding a conch, a discus, a mace, and a lotus respectively. But in my opinion, such a type of darshana is only the result of the grosser mentality of the worshipper. For the reason that his own subtler self appears to him in that form, because he had taken up that very form for meditation. The psychological reason he's giving, he says for the reason that his own subtler self appears to him in that form. People, that forms can appear in your dreams and all that, but it's our own form which appears like that. In Raja Yoga, the state of mind which develops by the effect of sadhana is quite a different one. In that condition, he feels the presence of a divine force everywhere and in all things, and that brings him into a state of ecstasy. Such is really the true state of darshana or divine vision. Let people peep into it and experience it for themselves. The attainment of this state of darshana or vision does not mean perfection. It is only the first step towards the divine. How much more we have to go on and how many further states we have yet to pass through cannot, however, be exactly determined. When our final aim is merging in Bhuma or the ultimate, the state of darshana can by no means be taken as final. In a way, we are yet in a state of amusement, enjoying the effects of the condition we enter in, like a child with his new toys. If you look into it with the heart's eye, you may easily discover the reality of it. Here is a clue again. We can easily, with our heart's eye, if we can study our own mental state, we can easily discover that we are still far away from the mark. Majority of us. And people who have realized they don't need to meditate at all. But then if you look into it with the heart's eye, you may easily discover the reality of it. We can discover our own mental state and assess our own progress, whether you're moving towards the goal or not. I call it amusement because in case the Abhyasi is away from it, even for a while, he feels unhappy. All that most of us do by way of worship has a sense of enjoyment behind it. Consequently, it is nothing but a sort of amusement. The sources of amusement are varied. For a child, it is toys. For a learned man, the study of books. For a worshipper, practices and sadhana. For a bhakta, emotional love. For a realized soul, realization and merging. And for one perfect, his state of ignorance. But until now, all these are amusements for amusement's sake only. He's also calling the state of being perfect state of ignorance, also is calling it as amusement. But now all these are amusements for amusement's sake only. True reality lies still ahead when we are beyond all these stages. It is a matter of pity that people remain entangled in these amusements, thinking them to be reality, and end their pursuit with them. मिल गई जिसको घाट हल्दी की उसने समझा कि हूं मैं पंसारी. One who got a piece of turmeric considered himself to be a grocer. What reality can possibly be is very difficult to describe in words. For the sake of understanding, we may call it as the end of all spiritual stages, though it may be only the beginning of reality. Further, that too disappears, and its memory also recedes to the background. Then we reach the plane where our swimming goes on infinitely. To him who might be eager to have experience of that infinite plane, I may say that he must step into it after brushing aside all the effects of feelings. All that I have said above may be very difficult to achieve by one's self-effort alone. The reason is that as we go higher and higher, the force of nature becomes subtler and subtler. And the subtler the force, the more powerful it is. Hence, the ascent by self-effort becomes very difficult. At this stage, the help and support of a worthy guide who might push the Abhyasi up by his own force is absolutely essential. But still, in my view, in spite of being pushed up by the master's force, the risk of slipping down again does persist unless the master's power is applied to support his stay there. Having given one of my associates a lift beyond the fourth stage of Brahmanda Mandal, I once made a practical examination of things by entering into the condition myself, and I found that it required a period of 1,000 years. 5,000. Since the spiritual stages are innumerable, the time required to traverse them is also incalculable. It is the power of pranahuti alone that can curtail this duration and enable the course of thousands of years to be covered within the span of one life. But the final aim, too, must remain in sight all through to ensure final success. This is an important point again. He says, but the final aim, too, must remain in sight all through to ensure final success. Oh, still. If we go on pursuing our practice of sadhana without having the final aim in view, our position will be that of a traveler who travels on without any idea of a destination. The spiritual path can be discovered only when one keeps the destination ever in view. I think this is very important. It's already underlined there. The spiritual path can be discovered only when we keep one keeps the destination ever in view. Now, what is it that keeps us firm on the path? Which is that power that pushes us onwards and helps and guides us through? It is our mind, manas, and mind alone, which is so often considered to be wicked and mean. Of course, we ourselves have spoiled its habits by making it overactive, indecisive, and vacillating. Otherwise, it is the best, the only, and the most useful instrument in us, which alone communicates to us the divine commands and all the subtle experiences of higher planes. In its spoiled stage, it no doubt leads us to hallucinations, which are most often misunderstood as stages of advancement. I have come across many friends who feel that they're communicating with God or with the master or liberated souls, which is mere hallucinations. I have come across such miserable persons. And if accidentally one happens to be somewhat interested in spiritualism, they extend of its viciousness may be incalculable, since he begins to interpret them as communion with higher souls or gods and claims to be receiving divine commands. But if the mind is brought to its purified state, it can never mislead one in this way. I may here give you my own discovery about the origin of the human mind. When the time of creation came, there was a stir in the region below the center, which served as the basis of creation. It was then in its absolute state, because it was the very next thing after God. The same thing appeared in man as mind, beyond which there is but God alone, the center, as I've put it in the efficacy of Raj Yoga. Now imagine for a while. He's asking us to imagine for a while now. So I leave some time for you to imagine. Now imagine for a while how far in its present state the mind has been marred and spoiled. I'm giving some time for you to imagine your state of mind or our state of mind or the general state of human consciousness in the world. Mind has been marred and spoiled. When it is again purified and brought to its original state, it reveals only that which is right. Mind can, however, through transmission, be brought to its original state all at once, if fortunately a master of such high caliber can be found, and if the Abhyasi too be capable of enduring the strong force of transmission. I have touched on only a few essential points, and at every step, I have emphasized the importance of pranahuti or transmission. The reason is that so far, I have never come across a better or more effective way of progress. It is because the superior power of the master combined with our own self-effort redoubles the force of progress. Here our master is genuine. Even I 100% guarantee you that if you listen to his words, read his words with a feeling of reverence and respect and a worshipful attitude, with a humble attitude, you will immediately, your condition of mind will change. You will feel extreme tranquility descend upon to you. So the fact that his blessing and his support is there is given. It is just like the sun shines, his love is given and his support is given to us. Only thing, combined with our self-effort, that is the question we have to address actually. Self-effort is important. Combined with our self-effort redoubles the force of progress. Besides, in this way, the over-consciousness of the self-effort remains subdued and never promotes the feeling of ahankar or pride, which often comes into the followers of grosser mechanical ways. Now, since the times are changing, as I have hinted at it in Efficacy of Rajayoga, only such means as introduced by our revered master, Mahatma Ramchandraji, shall be in vogue throughout the world. The knowledge of the divine is a science. The power of nature, which flows from the original repository in the form of knots, has the capacity of both creation and destruction. The sages of India always utilize the power of creation for the reformation of humanity. The power of destruction, which exists in abundance, is also so strong that even an atom bomb is no match for it. This power too is being utilized at present for setting up a new world in place of the present one. Spiritual renaissance has already commenced, and India shall again lead the world, no matter how long a time it may take. The world will soon realize that no nation on the surface of the earth can survive without spirituality as its base. The age of diplomacy and stratagem is now passing swiftly, and by the end of the present century, remarkable changes are bound to come into being. Everyone must be prepared to gladly welcome what is destined to befall, and should come to the path of spirituality, whereby alone his welfare can be assured. People have not given me a chance to serve them in this respect, though I have always been serving them to some extent, even without their knowledge. All that I have said above is my master's message to the whole world. हजारों साल नरगिस अपनी बेनूरी पे रोती है, बड़ी मुश्किल से होता है चमन में दीदावर पैदा. For thousands of years, the eye-shaped narcissus flower weeps over its sightlessness. One with real eyes is rarely born in the garden. thus ends his message, which he gave in 1960. If anybody wants to contribute to the discussion or the understanding or whatever, session is open for discussion or open for Bodha and Paraspara.
The last message, right?
Yeah.
खजाना नरगिस बेनूरी अपने
Yeah.
पे रोती है. Can you share what your understanding on this one is? Like, how do you?
I mean, the human mind is so inverted that it cannot even comprehend that it is misled and it is seeing in inverted, just like the image in the mirror you see, it is a reflection seen in the mirror. Actually, it is beyond. But the image itself is felt as real, whereas reality is in front of the mirror actually. So the present world which we are seeing is believed as totally real actually. Doubt never creeps into the mind. Am I correct or wrong? Like for example, simple thing. If you think logically, we know that like the 1 hour, half an hour we have spent here. In this time, there's a lot of changes have taken place in my body actually. So many new cells have formed, so many cells have died, so much of blood circulation has happened. Cells are continuously coming from the environment, entering, oxygen is entering, nitrogen is entering, and then continuous change is taking place everywhere. But the sense organs, the information sense organs give to the mind is that everything is stable and there's no change taking place. But actually, change is taking place every moment, everywhere in this universe. But we believe the reports of the sense organs. We never, unless you think deeply and then you carry the inference, but still the inference does not turn into wisdom, and we take the reports of the sense organs are true, and then we take the falsities itself as real. That means all people generally are blind actually. So people who are awakened to the presence of reality, you can say, uh, uh, are awake. It is a all or none phenomenon. If you see illusions, for example, that famous illusion of the young bride and the old lady is there, or the vases and the flower and vases, you can see either this or that. As long as you believe this world is real, you cannot see God. That means you are blind actually. So Babuji here is telling that person who is really clear vision or clear clarity about the uh, experience of God is rarely born. That's the idea I take actually. I mean, people who are realized are very few actually. I mean, people who see God and then live in God are really are awakened people. I mean, rest of the people are blind to the presence of God. That's my thinking. You can think in any way you like. It's all the way thoughts come into your mind. It may keep on changing your view about this sentence. If you read probably 1 year or 2, 3 months down the line, your wisdom increases, your interpretation will be different. Presently, I think like this.
Just metaphorically, I was trying to understand.
Yeah.
Nargis.
You can give me your views. What you must have thought about it.
Actually, understanding of this passage, I never got it fully. But I felt at one time that this is referred to because this is message of my master, right? So, like humanity has been crying for a real guide, and then was gifted with Lalaji Maharaj. And very few would, can recognize him. So somewhat the feeling of this is also communicated in the Marfat song. That is one interpretation I had.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was my view also. But this view, the birth of Lalaji is as a result of the requirement human cry, because we are so much steeped in materialism. Everybody is suffering from too much of sorrow. I mean, nobody is happy and contented. And so much of wars after the First World War, Second World War, Korean War. I mean, material degradation has reached such a zenith that people are crying for peace, and then nature presented Lalaji Maharaj to, to redeem the suffering of suffering humanity. So he is the person born with real eyes, who can lead people to out of the dream or sleepy. People are sleeping in the paradigm of materialism, which will only lead to degradation and suffering. So unless you recognize the presence of bliss within your own being, you can never be happy. So he is the person who has to wake humanity to its divine nature. So yeah, that's thanks for sharing this. I want people to think and then contribute to this discussion.
Sir, I was just reading on the internet
Yeah.
as to the meaning of this saying, and it has given some three interpretations. I will just read it.
Yeah,
It's
please
in
read
Hindi.
it. Yes, yes.
It sort of tells, maybe we can then relate it back to this story and then see. So I'll just read it.
Yeah.
It says, it's in Hindi. It says, नरगिस एक दुर्लभ फूल है जो कई सालों में एक बार खिलता है.
Okay.
वह अपनी ही खूबी से परिचित नहीं है. अपनी खूबसूरती की दौलत से बेखबर नरगिस हजारों सालों से अपनी बेनुरी पर रोती रहती है कि मुझ में कोई ना गुण, आकर्षण, सुंदरता नहीं है.
Okay.
हजारों सालों बाद संसार या चमन में कोई दीदावर पैदा होता है जो नरगिस को उसकी खूबसूरती का आभास कराता है.
Oh,
और
brilliant.
उसकी खूबसूरती की सराहना करता है.
Okay.
इस तरह शायद यह बताना चाहता है कि अपने वजूद को, अपने गुणों को पहचानो, रो मत.
Okay.
And then one more interpretation gives us दूसरा तथ्य.
This is beautiful interpretation. Really interesting and very makes you feel happy about. ठीक है, दूसरा क्या है?
दूसरा तथ्य यह है कि नरगिस का फूल देखने में किसी आंख जैसा लगता है. I mean, it's the shape of the petals is like leaves. I mean, like an eye.
Can anybody put a picture of that photo on the screen? I've never seen that.
So it says, दूसरा तथ्य यह है कि नरगिस का फूल देखने में किसी आंख जैसा लगता है.
Okay.
बेनुरी यानी जब संसार में अंधकार बढ़ जाता है, तब हजारों सालों में यह एक युग दृष्टा निर्माण जन्म लेता है.
Okay.
जो संसार को इसकी खूबसूरती से परिचित करवाता है.
Okay.
Basically,
good, very nice.
Yeah. And then last interpretation is given. इसका यह मतलब भी हो सकता है कि संसार को समझने के लिए हृदय में एक दृष्टि पैदा करनी चाहिए, वरना आंख होते हुए भी बेनुरी छाई रहेगी.
Okay.
बड़ी मुश्किल से इस सृष्टि को समझने वाला जन्म लेता है जो कठिनाइयों का सामना करके सृष्टि की खूबसूरती देखता है. So you have to basically look at it from the eye of the heart instead of the physical actual eye. That's what it is.
So it goes once in 1,000 years. This one.
That's what it says. I mean, but we don't know what the fact is. That we'll have to see.
Anyway, thanks, Vivek.
Yes.
It's good.
I think the second interpretation is in line with Lalaji Maharaj.
Yeah, correct. Sort of.
I want people to talk openly, because the thing is, if you talk openly, it will enrich our understanding. Bodhayanti Parasman ka matlab hi hai. And once you talk, you can express better his system to other people also, because a stage comes when you cannot be, hidden in society. You will be automatically radiating peace. So people want to know about the system. So then, if you're not, if you're weak in expressing yourself, we are not serving the master properly. You should learn to tell his system nicely so that people will understand his ideas. So I want more people to take classes in these training programs and then express better and all that. Okay, anything else? Dharmesh, और कुछ है क्या?
नहीं, क्या? Good discussion today.
सोचना पड़ेगा. I mean, my personal experience after so many years of meditation is that simple meditation will not do anything. You have to contemplate on the words of the master. Like he says, unless you keep the goal in your view, always in your view, you're not going to make much headway in spirituality. So unless we contemplate and then try to imbibe those thoughts and make those thoughts our own, just mechanical meditation without proper motives and without proper effort, realization is not a simple thing. It is Brahma Vidya. But because of Babuji, has made it practically possible to succeed. But doesn't mean that it is easy, doesn't mean that it just comes automatically if you just follow the methods. Intelligent, earnestly you must want your own freedom actually. Okay, then we'll meet next Sunday then.